should I have like a
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Media Path. I'm Fritz Coleman.
Oh, I'm Louise Palenker. Forgot it was my turn.
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, sure. Right here.
Media Path is your go-to resource for entertainment. Our mission is to hit you with so many fun diversions that you will completely blow off your more important daily responsibilities.
Sweet.
And today, we have a fantastic guest. This guy is a stellar example of how to diversify in the entertainment business. He's been a magician, a DJ, a stand-up comic, a game show host, a talk show host, a producer, an executive producer, and an author, and he's good at all of them. He's Marc Summers. Known him for a long time, so happy to have him with us today. Wildly successful in many areas, but he's also had to endure some very serious challenges in his life as well. And we're going to hit on all those topics with Marc Summers in just a few minutes. Weezy, what do you have for us this time?
So I've got a couple of picks from a path we'll call Who Am I? We'll start with a Netflix show called Atypical on Netflix. I like the way I said Netflix twice, as if they pay me. They don't. Sam is 18. He's on the autism spectrum, and his efforts to earn independence and maybe even a girlfriend put his entire family on a fast track towards self-discovery. Atypical comes to us from Robia Rashid and Seth Gordon. It stars Keir Gilchrist, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Michael Rappaport, and Bridget Lundy Payne as the sister, who's just outstanding. She's so great. It's really fun. The show is about relationships. Each family has storylines which intersect in honest, direct, quirky, and compelling ways. The performances are exceptional. Atypical on Netflix, 4 seasons strong and flowing. It's a great stream. Jump in. So the next pick I have is, and I just came out, so go ahead and check it on your Netflix. It might come up immediately when you click upon your Netflix. It's called Naomi Osaka on Netflix. Is a 3-part miniseries. Once again, continue to say the word Netflix as if I'm on their payroll. Naomi has been in the news for her refusal to take part in tournament interviews, citing mental health issues. This intimate series follows Naomi Osaka as she explores her cultural roots and navigates her multifaceted identity as a tennis champ and rising leader. Directed by Oscar nominee Garrett Bradley, the series follows Naomi over the course of 2 years, mapping out the development of her game and her views about the role she can play in the world. We open on home video of 2 tiny little girls being coached by their dad to play tennis. So what you immediately grasp is that tennis is somebody else's dream. Naomi's voiceover tells us that they practiced for 6 hours every day and that her dad did not talk to the other tennis parents. To me, that means that the girls were mainly socializing within their own bubble and working so hard at tennis that they had little opportunity to think and feel and dream about their own destiny. It was being mapped for them. Naomi, of course, excels at tennis. By age 20, she defeats Serena Williams and she's world famous. But all this was Dad's dream. Sports parents are an even rougher breed than stage parents. Kids are raised to be winners, killers. Emotional development is not a priority. But this piece is not a bad dad doc. In fact, he seems lovely and is in it rarely. This is a documentary about Naomi's journey to discover herself. She has a lot to tell us on her own terms, and in this format, she can pilot the narrative. The show is contemplative and quiet and deliberate, mirroring what we come to know about Naomi's personality. The voice which Naomi is finding now speaks out about human rights, racial injustice, and mental health, bringing awareness to these important issues. And perhaps most importantly, Fritz, you may now add to your collection a Naomi Osaka Barbie doll.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think she did the world a great service calling attention to social anxiety. And can athletes, when they sign these huge contracts, be forced to do all this great public testimony in front of millions of the media and the eyes of the world, if that's not what you're good at or have a penchant toward, you know? And I felt so bad for her. I really did. And I think the whole world sort of empathized with her situation.
Absolutely. And if you're not into sports and you never watch the interview process, there can be like a lot of judgment fueled in these questions. And it can be very intimidating when you're a kid, really. She's still a kid. You know, She's only 23 years old and you're not Jen Psaki. Like, how are you supposed to field these questions with style and not just start crying?
She might change the whole paradigm for that, like whether you're going to have to be forced to do that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
I love that.
All right, I have a couple of good ones.
Okay.
The first one is a Netflix mini-series called How to Become a Tyrant. I was interested in watching this because, as I've said on this podcast many times before, in the last 4 years, we've had our first exposure to authoritarianism. And the end game of authoritarianism is a dictatorship run by a tyrant. We weren't there yet, but we got a little taste of the possibility over the last 4 years. This is a limited series that goes into the playbook that dictators use to maintain absolute power. Guys like Hitler, Stalin, Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, Idi Amin, the Kim dynasty of North Korea, Papa Doc Duvalier of Haiti, timely now that the assassination has happened to their most recent leader. There have been endless docs about each one of these characters, but this is not your typical dry History Channel droning. It actually has a sense of humor. It's narrated by Peter Dinklage, Mr. Game of Thrones. He makes snarky, funny comments as he's hitting you with the tactics that tie all these dudes together, like seizing power, crushing their rivals, setting up a reign of terror, controlling the truth, creating a new society, or promising to. The ultimate goal is ruling forever. Now, these are extremes of dictatorship in the 20th century, but some of the concepts are going to feel hauntingly familiar about what we've just lived through. And while we're talking about authoritarians, Landslide is the latest book by Michael Wolff. And this chronicles the last days in the Trump White House. It's the third book he wrote about Trump. The bombshell one was the last one, Fire and Fury, which was the go-to book. It was talked about on the media for months. This is equally as powerful and even more meaningful because after all the damning revelations he laid out in Fire and Fury, he got White House officials, including Trump, to sit down and talk with him again, which is mind-blowing. It's chock full of smoking hot reveals, but I'll give you what I think was the most eye-catching one in this whole book. The whole idea that Trump swearing that he won the election, actually won it by a landslide, didn't come from Trump himself. It came from Rudy Giuliani. You might remember on election night, the first half of the returns were favoring Trump, which is how the pundits said it would go. Republicans would come out of the gate strong, but as the evening progressed, the Dems would recover because of mail-in and absentee ballots. Well, when the momentum for Trump started to stall out about halfway through the night and Trump's inner circle began to sense that things were going to go south, Rudy, who was, according to reports, shit-faced, ran into the room and said to Trump, what you have to do is go on the air right now and claim victory. You got to jump on it before Biden does because perception is everything. And Trump was persuaded, so that's exactly what he did. Then Trump gradually added his own color to this fantasy, like the election has been stolen. And then after election night, Michael Wolff goes into all the wackadoodle behavior that happens as more and more attorneys are hired to go out and stop the steal among the state governments in battleground states. And you're thinking to yourself, how did they recruit so many nutbag lawyers to threaten their law licenses by going to these various states with these conspiracy theories? And none of them worked. Lots of interesting stuff. This is one of 4 post-Trump books. I swore that I would never invest any more time in Trump-oriented literature, but I couldn't help myself. This might go down as the oddest and darkest time in American history. It's hard to get enough. And today's the day where Peter Rucker's book comes out called I Alone Can Fix It.
Now, are you going to read all these books, Fritz?
I'm going to read, I finished this one, and then I'm going to read the Peter Rucker book, and I don't know if I'll read the other ones. I don't know. I have this dark fascination with the whole thing. And here's, I think, the eeriest overarching piece of information from this book. Mm-hmm. And I heard the 2 authors talking about this last night on MSNBC, that, Trump may not in his soul of soul believes that he won this election. He may not even care, but he obsesses over chaos. He just likes the chaos. He loves that people in his immediate circle fight with one another. He loves to see them face off. It makes him smile. So it may not be whether he wants to be president again. He just loves chaos. And so we have to get Dr. Freud in here to figure out why that's true.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I spent 5 years just obsessively reading these books about what was happening. And then somehow after Joe was elected, I just I said, Rachel can tell me everything I need to know that's in this book, or Nicole. And I'm taking kind of a break from it, although I could easily spiral back back in if you're telling me that there's some stuff in here that
Well, this was good. And again, it's ridiculous because even after what was revealed in Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff, Trump did like a 2-hour sit-down with him. And they attributed that to the fact that he doesn't get as much attention as he did when he was president, and he craves attention. So anybody that will listen to him, he likes to talk to.
All right, well, let's go over with, some remote podcasting equipment and say, hey, well, you can talk as long as you want.
Dude, it'd be fun to be in the presence of Satan.
No, I think I'll pass. I will pass.
All right, now to our guest. This man and I go back 25 to 30 years when we did stand-up together, and I think the last time I worked with him, it might have been at the Ice House, but it was probably at the Laugh Stop in Encino, which is now a barely legal Thai massage parlor. He was the host of Double Dare on Nickelodeon. My children grew up and loved that show. He hosted Unwrapped on the Food Network. He executive produced Dinner Impossible and Restaurant Impossible on the Food Network. He hosted Home Show on ABC, Our Home on Lifetime, History's IQ on the History Channel, wrote a really wonderful book, Everything in Its Place, My Trials and Triumphs with Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. What an accomplished guy, Marc Summers. I'm so happy to see you again, sir.
Well, it's nice to see you. I remember I used to do the Laugh Stop out in Newport Beach originally.
Well, that was a good gig.
It was a great place to try out material because it was the best audience in the world, and you could go out there with the worst stuff and get a laugh and build confidence so that when you went to the improv or the Comedy Store, you felt good.
And there was nobody from show business down there. You could just try it out.
Ever.
And that was a great room. And if you wanted to work Monday nights, it was a sacrifice, but it was worth it because Monday night they had a strip show before they had the comedy show.
I don't remember that.
And the audience was enlightened by the time you got on. There were women seriously stoked by the time you got on.
Let me apologize for my voice. I'm just getting over bronchitis, and I was a scratchy throat. So this is the first day I can sort of talk. So it's not my normal broadcasting voice, but I'll do the best I can.
Well, I'll tell you.
We're excited to hear what you've been holding on to saying for these last 2 years. Now, Marc, I'm going to take you back because I have a little trip down your memory lane for you. Thomas, if you could click on these photographs. So, do you recognize where we are, Marc?
If I had my glasses with me, I probably
Okay, so fresh off the boat from suburban Buffalo, I was an intern on a show called Our Magazine.
You were?
Starring the unnervingly handsome Gary Collins.
Yes. You were an intern on that show?
So we know each other.
Oh, my God.
You were the warm-up guy.
Yes.
And what I remember most fondly, Marc, is that when an audience member would ask how many people work here, you would say...
About half.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As a warm-up guy, it always works. Where the hell did you get that picture?
I took it. I was like a nervy little intern that came on set with a camera.
You've got to give me a copy. That's
sure.
Crazy. Gary was the nicest guy to me.
So nice.
When I was trying to become a host, and I was some young kid, I got him to sit down and do an interview with me where I got to, do 6 minutes as a resume tape.
Okay.
And he said to me, "You don't have host hair." I said, "What the hell does that mean?" He said, "You don't look like a host." So he said, "Here, go to my barber." So it was this very nice lady. I think she was on the lot at Paramount. And I went over there and I went to pay. And she said, "Gary's got the first one. They're on you after this." And, there aren't many guys left like that who do those kind of things.
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he was.
I liked his wife,
guy.
too. She was sweet.
She was lovely. Yep.
Now, I think what might be the proudest career achievement for you, I think you'll agree, is you are the godfather of slime. On Double Dare, you brought slime into the American zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Really? It was so much fun to see people get slimed, and you ultimately get slimed. What is slime? How did that happen?
Well, back in the day, the original recipe was vanilla pudding, green food coloring, and applesauce.
Oh, wow.
Now, we just brought Double Dare back, and we shot 60 of them. And they have this company that makes slime for Nickelodeon, and you can change, ready for this term, the viscosity of it. Do you want it to be thin? Do you want it to be thick? Do you want it to hang on your face?
You want it to ooze or hang?
And so we spent a whole day at the factory just trying to figure out what kind of slime we should be using on that show.
You raised a generation of slime scientists.
I did. And what's fascinating is, to me, all the reality shows that are going on today are actually being done and produced by people who grew up watching me. And then they just took it another step further.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you, you were really good because you never talked down to the kids. They were equal participants with you in this hijinks that was going on.
And do you know why that was? I never wanted to host a kids show. I had been around town forever, like you, trying to do something. You got on doing weather, and you were having a really good stand-up career. And I was still doing warm-ups. I wanted to blow my brains out. And a friend of mine, Dave Garrison, who's sadly no longer around, was a ventriloquist, and he got called for the audition. Now, they had auditioned 1,000 people in New York City, didn't like anybody. Dave gets this phone call here in L.A., and he goes, look, I don't want to be in front of the camera anymore. I want to be a producer. Why don't you go to this instead of me?
Oh, my gosh.
So I walked in, and they said, Dave Garrison. I said, well, my name's Marc Summers, but Dave couldn't make it. It's okay if I go on instead of him. They, yeah, okay, come on in. And so I was the first guy to audition in L.A. They had auditioned another 1,000 people. And so it came down to me and another guy. And I called up the exec producer, and I said, well, how are you going to make the decision? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, well, what's the big problem? He said, well, when you guys auditioned, you did not audition with kids. We had adults playing the part of kids. And I said, well, I have kids. He goes, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I said, well, I used to be a magician, and I used to do magic shows. He goes, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. So I said, well, why don't you put me and whoever this other guy is in a room with kids and do the show and let the best man win? He said, I'll call you back. And an hour later, he called me and said, what are you doing over Labor Day? I said, coming to New York? He goes, yeah. So they flew me to New York.
Wow.
And they put me in a studio with kids. And then I left. And whoever this other person is, I still don't know who it was, came in and did his thing. And 2 days later, they called me and they said, congratulations, you're the host of Double Dare. And I said, explain something to me. You auditioned 1,000 people in New York and 1,000 people in L.A. Why did I get the job? And he said, well, quite honestly, the two guys, you and the other guy were about the same. But at the end of his audition, he looked in the camera and said, is that it? Or you guys want me to do something else? And I looked in the camera and said, we'll be back with more Double Dare after this. And because I threw it a commercial, they thought that was more professional, and that changed my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And so I didn't want to be a kid show host. And so I approached it like I was doing Jeopardy or Wheel. And I decided, I never talked to the kids in a squeaky voice, do you have a girlfriend? How are you? So I just treated them like grown-ups.
Yeah.
And would make fun of them at times. And they would sort of screw around back to me. And when they went to focus groups, the kids said they thought I was like some crazy uncle or maybe some, teenage friend that they had.
Sure.
They never thought, at the time I was 34, married and had 2 kids, but they thought I was like 25, so it worked out.
But
my kids loved that show.
How old are your
Loved
kids
it.
now?
The ones that watched you were 33 and 31. I'm sorry to tell you that,
Wow.
my friend. You know you're old, don't you?
Oh, well, my son just turned 41, so yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, but I will say Nickelodeon was the only, they didn't want to watch Disney cartoons all the time, but Nickelodeon was the only channel we as parents were comfortable letting them watch. And all that on any given weekend was funnier than Saturday Night Live. That was a funny show.
It
and
was.
gave Kenan Thompson his career.
Yeah, and still obviously doing great.
Yeah, doing great.
Saturday Night Live.
So
and all
that was a great era for my kids that era when you were on there.
That was fun time. I really enjoyed it.
So what do kids say to you who grew up watching you and are now in the industry or now doing something professional? What do they say about how you influence them?
Well, I tell you, I'm at that point in my life where things are creepy because people come up to me and they go, "Oh my God, you're an icon." I was sitting outside at Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills a Saturday, and a car drove up and went, "Oh my God, my child is," And so the impact that I had on this particular generation, I didn't realize, quite honestly, until we brought it back. And I went out just now. We just stopped it around when COVID started. But I did an 18-month, 70-city tour. And it was for moms and dads and kids. But basically, a bunch of 40-year-old people would come dressed in Double Dare T-shirts, just wanting to relive their childhood.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy to me. It was so much fun.
So was that to promote the new manifestation of Double Dare?
Yes.
And are you involved in that as an EP or anything?
I'm EP.
Oh,
and
good.
it was so funny. I had been driving Nickelodeon crazy for years to bring it back, and they said, no. So I get a phone call one day saying, your persistence has paid off. We're going to bring it back. But you're not the host.
The original guy that auditioned.
Yeah. And I said, who's going to host it? And they said, well, we hired an influencer. And I said, excuse me, I'm a 68-year-old Jewish man. I have no idea what that is. So they said, well, look it up. And, here was this lovely lady, Liza Koshy, who was all of 22 years old. And she was the host. I was the EP. And I was the announcer. I became Harvey, the guy who used to announce for me.
Right.
And then she'd bring me out to do physical challenges and things like that. And, it was just fun to come back and play television. And it was the first job I ever had my entire career, because back when I started Double Dare, I was getting paid $500 an episode, which I thought was a fortune back in the day. So I didn't know what to expect, fast forward the tape. And the first offer was the most ridiculous offer in my life because I didn't have to renegotiate. It was like, really? You're paying people this much dough now? Holy mackerel.
I'm going to go back to the beginning because you're from Indianapolis.
Yes.
That's a great growing ground for hosts back there. Were you in town when was Letterman still on TV when you were there?
I was working at a radio station in Elwood, Indiana, WBMP FM, doing weekends 6 to 11, playing 101 strings in Manavani. And I was only 15, and the guy who drove me up lost his job, and so I had to quit. Dave took my place.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Dave was doing a show called Clover Power, which was for 4-H, like at 1 o'clock in the morning on the weekends. And it was funny.
Was he 15 too?
No, he was. Well, Dave's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
But Dave Garrison, the guy I mentioned earlier, who was the ventriloquist, was the variety act on once, and he got done doing his act with Dudley, and so Dave and Dudley were there, and Dave walks over to him. Keep in mind, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Clover Power, WLWI in Indianapolis, and Letterman says, "So, Dave and Dudley, which one of you guys does the laundry?" I mean, Letterman's sense of humor was the same back then as it is now. And so, And so when Dave became a stand-up out here, I was working on the Mac Davis show doing warm-ups.
Wow.
And we had a writer, Terry Hart. He said, "I'm going to bring somebody to the studio today who I think you know." And it was Dave.
Oh.
And so Dave and I used to play racquetball together. And then when the strike started at the Comedy Store, that was a whole other issue. So, yeah, I've known Dave God knows how many years, you know. So
you were a DJ and a magician to start. That was your start into show business.
Yep.
So how did the transition to stand-up comedy start?
I always wanted to do stand-up. I went to a school called Graham Junior College in Boston, and it was a school for a bunch of misfits. We didn't really want to go to school. The school had 2 color studios, a black and white studio, a radio station. It was insane. And so I got into this school, and I meet a guy by the name of Bert Dubrow, who became the exec producer of Sally Jesse Raphael and Jerry Springer. I met a guy by the name of Paul Fusco, who created Alf. Andy Kaufman went to our school. So it was an amazing place to learn. And I was in my dorm one night watching TV, and I turned on the Tonight Show, as I would watch all the time. And this young comedian by the name of Alan Bursky popped up.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Jesus, he's 18 years old. If he can do it, I can do it. And so my mission was to get the hell out of Boston, move to L.A., and become a stand-up comedian.
Wow.
And so
I was at Mitzi's memorial at the Comedy Store.
I was as well.
And were you there?
I was there.
Oh, my gosh. And Alan spoke, and he was one of the funniest guys there.
Alan's still funny, believe it or not.
Really very funny.
It was weird to go to that, though. I didn't recognize half the people because I hadn't seen them in so long. But, I just wanted to get on, and I was working at the Magic Castle. I was doing 28 shows a week back then for $145, but I didn't have enough stage experience, and so I wanted to get really good. So in '73, I became a regular at the Magic Castle, and I auditioned in the summer of '76 for Mitzi, and actually became a regular the first time I auditioned.
One of the rare ones.
Tell us a joke from that act.
Geez, something I can use here. Let's see. I remember this. I'm a Jew from Indiana. We do exist. I belong to an unusual congregation back there, B'nai Hoosier. My bar mitzvah was at the Moose Hall in Indianapolis. I mean, that was kind of my act. I said, you remember those, what was the thing? You heard about those LeCars? Worst thing about them, LeBrakes. You know, I mean, I was David Brenner sideways, you know. But for whatever it was worth, it worked.
Yeah.
And I used to open. This is funny. I used to open for Gallagher at the Laugh Stop. Okay.
Oh.
And so I'm backstage.
You're
one
so
night.
diametrically opposed to Gallagher's
Oh my
act.
God. So Gallagher comes up to me. Can I swear on this show? I don't
Sure,
know. Okay.
sure.
So Gallagher comes up to me and he goes, "Summers, you're an asshole." And I said, "Excuse me, Leo, why is that?" And he goes, "Because you walking out there with a deck of cards and you're a prop act." I said, "Well, you're the biggest prop act out there. What are you talking about?"
Sledgehammer and
But you don't
watermelon.
understand that. How much are they paying you to open for me? I said, $150. He goes, if you were a comic, you'd get $300. So I didn't realize, because I was cutting ropes and saying pick a card, they were paying me half because I was a novelty act.
Wow.
So I started
wow.
to wean the magic out and start doing stand-up. And all of a sudden my pay went up. And
I never heard that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Gallagher taught me that. And so, all of a sudden I wasn't, one of the dancing bears from the Ed Sullivan Show. I was like a stand-up. And so the worst job I ever had, I got called to open for the Bay City Rollers at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium in Santa Monica.
That sounds like a taste of heaven.
Well, you know what it was? They were supposed to be the next Beatles.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
So everybody told me not to do it. The guy said it was Wolf Rispiller concerts, and he said, you've got to do 12 minutes, okay? And he said, if you get off that stage 30 seconds before, I'm not going to pay you, okay? It was a $500 job. I needed the money. David Copperfield, who hadn't really exploded at the time, was doing magic, and a friend of mine, and I called David, and he had just opened for them in New York. And he kind of worked
Run
because
for your life.
he did not talk, he just did magic, and he did illusions. So they said, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the comedy of Marc Summers. And all these 13-year-old girls are yelling, get the F off the stage.
Oh, yeah.
And,
oh,
you know,
God.
Jim Rissmiller, who was off to the corner, said, I will hold up fingers as to how much time you have left, okay, and how much time you've done. And I was out there with the flop sweat and trying to get the attention. And I looked over to Jim, and he went, I thought I'd been there for an hour and a half. I had only done 2 minutes.
Wow.
And I did the full 12 minutes, and he put his arm around me as I walked off stage, and he said, I have a compliment for you. And I said, what's that? He said, you're the first act across the country that didn't get anything thrown at them. So I said, well, thank you. That's fantastic. So, you know, you learn, obviously, because you...
Steve Martin's guy, in one of his books, has great descriptions of the hideous nature of opening for rock acts.
Of course.
And that was his worst experience in life. But I will tell you that you did show warm-up, and you were very good at it.
Thank you.
And that teaches you momentum, and no matter what's happening, don't stop.
You can't.
So our mutual friend Jimmy Brogan used to do the warm-up for Cheers.
He was the best.
And he had laryngitis. And he called me the day before they taped on Friday at Paramount. He said, would you fill in for me tomorrow?
Oh, my.
You look enough like me.
Oh, yeah, right. We were mistaken for one another. And now 2 Presbyterian ministers from the Midwest, and we go up on stage together. But he's the master at improvising with it. And I said, wow, I'm gonna go warm the audience up for Cheers. That's a notch in my saddle. It is the worst stand-up experience I've ever had, and the longest lasting. It took 5 hours because they were a film show. Mm-hmm. They had to change the film canisters every 10 minutes. And the first 3 rows are family and friends who have been there for every episode. And first of all, what you have to understand is you're never going to be as funny as the show.
Well, you can't be. You're not allowed to be.
No, you're not allowed to be. And it's not about you and your brilliant stand-up. It's keeping the energy alive. And I've never worked that hard, and I never want to do it again. But
it's brutal.
I have such respect for those of you and Mark Sweet and a couple of those guys that have made careers out of doing it brilliantly. Oh, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, Sweet started off as a magician as well.
Yeah.
That was his career. And then he got in, he's one of the highest paid warm-up guys out there from what I understand now. I was a page at CBS, and I was working on Mary Tyler Moore and Newhart.
Oh,
and
wow.
Lorenzo Music was the exec producer, played Carlton and the doorman eventually, but he did the best warm-up I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought, well, I didn't even know what that job was. I could do that. So one day I knocked on his door. I said, hi, my name is Mark. Someday if you can't do the warm-ups, can I fill in? He goes, you ever done it before? And I went, sure. And I lied and mentioned shows that, of course, I'd never done. So a week later, the phone rings, and it was Lorenzo. And he said, we're doing a show called Doc with Barnard Hughes.
Yes.
And can you fill in for me? Yeah, sure. Well, now I'm pooping my pants because I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I brought magic tricks, and I wrote stuff and whatever. And I went out there, and somehow, to this day, I don't know, I killed. And running down the stairs when I was done that night was Grant Tinker, the man who owned the company. And he's put his arms around me and said, that might be the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh, my goodness.
And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I've seen Lorenzo Music for the last 15 weeks. Nobody's better than him. And he goes, no, you killed it. So that opened up doors for me.
Wow.
I tried to be a writer on the Mac Davis show when Danny Simon, Neil's brother, was the head writer. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get the job. And I said, well, who's doing the warm-up? Because I don't know. You want to do it? So I said yes. So I started doing warm-ups on Mac Davis. The exec producers were Smith Hemian and Steve Binder. They went on to do Shields and Yarnell and a million other shows. So whenever they needed a warm-up guy, they'd call me.
Right.
So that opened up the doors. I was doing extra work on soap. And a dear friend of mine, Howie, he originally was Howie Itzkowitz, now Howie Stevens, was doing the warm-up. But I didn't think Howie was having a particularly good time doing it. So in between season 1 and season 2, I made a cold call to Paul Witt, the exec producer, and I said, hi, my name is Marc Summers, and I've been an extra on your show. I'm just wondering, are you guys thinking of making a change on the warm-up guy? He says, well, what brought that up? And I said, well, I've been there, and I know Howie's a friend, but he seems to have a tough time. He goes, you know what? We're doing a dress rehearsal this weekend. Why don't you come in and do it? If we like you, you got the rest of the season. If not, see you. Well, I did it that night, and for the next 3 years, I did the warm-ups on soap. And next to me was Barney Miller. Dave Letterman was doing the warm-up on Barney Miller.
Oh, wow.
And to the right of me was Bosom Buddies. Bob Saget was doing the warm-up on
Oh, my.
So, I mean, so many of us got started doing that job.
It will give you calluses.
Oh, my God.
It'll give your stand-up calluses.
What's
doing
the
that kind of
trick
work.
to it? Is it crowd work?
I think it's getting them to like you up front because,
Yeah.
at some point you run out of material and you show pictures of your kids out of your wallet, The hardest show I ever did was Alice because it was basically old people who would fall asleep in the audience. And Linda
were there
was
for the air
lovely,
conditioning.
and the whole group, Vic Tayback, nicest human in the world. But Madeline Davis and Bob Carroll Jr. were the exec producers of that show and the writers, who happened to have also done I Love Lucy. And with all due respect to them, they used to basically recycle I Love Lucy scripts to Linda, and that's what they did. And there was nothing, in my opinion, particularly funny about that program. And so you have old people with not a lot of jokes. All they waited for every week was, kiss my grits. And after they did kiss my grits, they'd laugh, applaud, and that was it.
And they fall asleep.
And they'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
And I did that show for 8 years.
Wow.
Guess who I replaced on that one?
I can't.
Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think all these great people did warm up. How do you think it strengthened them?
I guess it gives you the confidence to stand up in front of an audience, often with no material. And Brogan will tell you this. Brogan was the best at where you from. And he would take where you from for 25 minutes about your city, your town, your family, where you're going for dinner, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to interact with strangers who are basically, other than the first 3 rows, from out of town. And you have to explain to them how this whole thing works, because they go and turn on their TV, they watch All in the Family for 30 minutes, and they don't realize it took 3.5 hours to do that.
And now it's completely
Right.
different. The last couple of years that Jay did the Tonight Show, they had a guy, and it was all about like EDM music and T-shirt cannons and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. There were no jokes.
No,
It
I
was
hate
all.
that.
It was like it was just an energy thing. It was they don't.
But that's what Jay wanted.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not what
I'll do the jokes.
Yeah.
basically.
No, really.
true.
Yeah, it's just kind of keeping people charged when they'd
Yeah.
be falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you don't know if you've never been to Hollywood and you've never gone to the recording of a TV show is that it takes several hours, and that the warm-up guy could be saying, hey, a funny story about my dad that happened last month, and all of a sudden they're ready to shoot again.
Oh, yeah.
and you have to
stop.
stop.
Yeah.
And then when you come back, you have to decide, do I continue that story or do I go with some new energy? You're constantly being interrupted, and you have to have the ability to get up in front of people in a moment for 2 minutes or for half an hour and explain to them what the holdup is and be entertaining. It's a lot.
I was doing a pilot with B. Arthur after Golden Girls.
Oh my.
And I was out on stage for maybe 20, 25 minutes. The exec producer, could you come here for a second? And he said, B has a message for you. What's that? Shut up. Don't talk. We'll pay you. Sit over on this chair. When the show's over with, we'll pay you. But her feeling is you're funnier than the script. Don't say another word. So there was silence between the acts because that's what B wanted.
wow.
It was amazing.
And how did that go?
Not particularly well. She didn't get picked up. I got to be a page on Sonny and Cher, and I did the last episode of Sonny
Really?
and Cher. I was on Carol Burnett. I was in All in the Family. I did the first episode of Good Times. Think about this. It was 1974, and Mr. Lear felt that only black people should be in the audience. He thought it was only a black show. So the rehearsals, normally you do an afternoon dress rehearsal, and then the audience goes away and they do changes, and then you do the air. Well, they were running way behind, and we had an entire group of very nice people that they brought in, and I had to go out and tell them after standing out in the heat for 2.5 hours that we weren't going to be doing this show.
Ooh.
So Mr. Lear says, excuse me, can I talk to you? Yeah. And he gave me a wad of money, and he said, give them each $20, tell them to go over to the farmer's market, tell them to have dinner, and then tell them to come back. And I said, Mr. Lear, with all due respect, if I start handing $20 bills to the audience, they're going to leave and they ain't ever coming back. And he said, do you really think that? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And so, sure enough, about only half of them returned, enough to be in there. We did the show, and they realized after shooting the first one, it wasn't a black show, it was a show. And you didn't need to have black people in the audience. You needed to have just people in the audience. So that was an interesting time to be working over there. And, people just didn't know what was going on at the time.
Yeah. Now, after my stint as intern on Our Magazine, I got a job as a page at Metro Tape.
Oh, my.
So I worked on all the Norman Lear
You
sitcoms.
did. They moved over there.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I was over there. The very first real job I had in town was writing Truth or Consequences the last year Bob Barker hosted it.
Awesome.
And we shot it over there. And I thought I had died to go and gone to heaven because I used to run home from nursery school and watch Bob host Truth or Consequences when it was on NBC. And he was my idol. And the fact that I was going to get a chance to work and meet with this guy was like the most amazing thing in my life.
Wow. So what was he like?
I can't tell you. He, we haven't talked in years.
Wow.
It's all about him.
Tough cookie.
Yeah, he on his sleeves he has monogram WGMC. On his, I'll tell you a funny story. So he had the dressing room over at the Carol Burnett Studio 33, and then they did Price over there when Carol wasn't shooting, and he had a sign WGMC World's Greatest MC. Well, Bob Eubanks was shooting a pilot over at 33 one year, and Bob, just for the heck of it, took the WGMC sign and hit it. And Bob gets to the studio and refused to go on until they found that sign. And so CBS was scattering, and they finally got a hold of Eubanks at home and said, "What in the hell did you do with that WGMC sign?" He said, "I hid it under the couch." And they went under there, put on. Bob went out and said, "Here's your next item up for bids." But let's just say his ego wouldn't fit in the room.
Wow.
And I could tell you a lot more than
How do you get to be that guy?
I think,
Being
people,
kowtowed to for 30, 40 years.
but
I think
he-
enough
he's
people kiss your ass and you start to believe it. And, there was a time, the story goes, that TV Guide wanted to do a cover with Barker and Jack Barry and a lot of the guys, Gene Rayburn. And Barker said, "You can do a cover with me, but I'm not doing a cover with those guys."
Oh, my gosh.
He became full of himself.
Yeah, but I think that fame just exacerbates your already personality.
Oh, probably. But he used to say this thing, Bob never got married, and his opening line was, Dorothy Jo, his wife, "Dorothy Jo and I have something in common. She's in love with me, and so am I." And I think that was the truth,
So how did you make the transition to the lifestyle shows like Home on AMC or ABC, Our House on Lifetime, the Food Network shows? Did you have, was that?
Fritz, everything that happened in my career has been a mistake. So I had done some segments for the home show on ABC. I was teaching them how to do magic and just silly stuff, filler stuff. And so Howie Stevens was a regular on the home show. And they were having a contest, and they had to give somebody $50,000 as the grand prize in West Virginia. Well, they had told Howie it was on June 4th. Well, something got changed, and they had to move it to June 3rd or something. And Howie said, "Well, I've already made plans to go to Europe, so I'm not changing them." And they said, No, you have to change them because you have to go to West Virginia. And he goes, "No, you didn't hear me. I'm not changing them. I'm going to Europe." So Jim Woody, who was the executive in charge of production at Home Show Club, he goes, "Hey, Summers, I need you to do this thing for me." "What's that?" "I need you to go to West Virginia, give this woman $50,000, and then fly home. Now, keep in mind, you're just filling in for Howie. It's a one-time offer. Don't call me and say you want to do more of these." I said, "Okay, fine." So I flew, did the award. We're live. And the lady said to me, I said, "Here's a $50,000 check." And she goes, "I always wanted to meet Gary Collins because he's so handsome." And I said, "Well, you know what, Gary? I'm flying back this afternoon. Maybe I should fly back with her, and you should give her the money." And Woody Frazier, who was exec producer, said in my ear, "Nice going, Marc." So I flew back with this woman. The next day, I was on with her. Gary gave her the check. They thought that was so good, they fired Howie, and I became a regular for the next 3 years.
You just keep
You've
grabbing
blown a lot
Howie's
of people
gigs.
out of work, though. You really
But
have.
you know what? It wasn't my choice.
Right.
I just kind of did things.
But you're plucky. That's one through line.
I like that word.
That's a thread. You are plucky. You go for it.
I go for it every time. I was never scared. And, look, I'm still friends with all these guys.
Yeah.
But I think on my feet, and it somehow has worked. And so Woody then created a show for me called What Would You Do, that we did at Nickelodeon. And Woody and I had a company together. We brought back Wild and Crazy Kids for Nickelodeon and did many things together. And so I've been able to cross back and forth as a producer and as talent, and it's just been fun.
I think Double Dare was the first child-focused game show that was successful. Am I right?
Probably right. I grew up with a show, Video Village, that became Kiddio Village, and then Shenanigans, but it didn't have the impact that Double Dare did.
No, it wasn't like interactive type.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, thank you. I think we kind of put Nickelodeon on the map, and it put me on the map at the same time.
And now you have Marc Summers Productions.
Yeah.
So how did that come into fruition?
I was doing a home show piece at the toy show in New York, and I was interviewing this guy who had a company called Tiger Toys. He had a toy called 2XL. It was a robot. And when I got done off the air, he goes, I have this robot. Do you think we can turn it into a TV show? So I came up with a show called Pick Your Brain, and 2XL was the star of the show. And Tiger Toys financed my company, and I needed an entity to get started. So Roger was the one who helped me start Marc Summers Productions, and then we just started producing television shows, and we did Dinner Impossible and Restaurant Impossible and a bunch of other things along the way.
So do you find a lot of the fans that were with you for Double Dare as children are now with you for all these types of shows?
That's the cool thing. They grew up with me,
yeah.
And I'm now on like the third generation because now their kids are watching me, and it's just been an amazing career. I've had so much fun. I always say I've never worked a day in my life because I just got to play TV all the time. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
I think that's your appeal. I think you look like you're having a great time. As I say, you don't talk down to people. You have a great warmth on television. And so that's why you've been able to host across a bunch of different types of platforms.
Yeah, I did a show called History IQ at the History Channel.
I love that show.
Thank you.
Kids probably learn more out of that show than they would out of a book in an 11th grade history class.
It was hard. It was really hard. We did that for 2 years. That was fun. Yeah, I've done sort of a potpourri of crazy shows. I've hosted over 25 programs. I used to host the Rose Parade for Fox. I mean, it's been fun. The answer is always yes. Somebody calls and says, do you want to? And before they even say what it is, I go, yeah, I'll do that,
So what are you doing right now? Anything? You said that things toned down with the pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic sort of brought everything to a screeching halt. A couple of years ago, I have a partner, Ian Shive. We produced shows together. We did a shark special for Shark Week for Discovery a couple of years ago in Cuba. And we got together and just did a show called The Last Unknown. We went to the Aleutian Islands, to a couple of islands that supposedly had not been inhabited in hundreds or thousands of years. And once we got there, we found
Coke cans.
Starbucks.
We found some downed planes from World War II and some tunnels from the Japanese. And it became sort of a different show in many aspects. We were going to look at the flora and the fauna, but the things that we discovered sort of gave it a left turn. And it's on Discovery Plus. We went on the air, I think, March 16th, and we have trended every day since then.
So, Marc, when you get there, where do you sleep and go to the bathroom?
On boats.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous out there. Just to get permission to go out and do these things is not that easy. We own the islands, the United States does, but they pretty much don't allow anybody on them.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that was fun. Going to Cuba and shooting there was fun. It's all amazing. The fact that people actually pay you to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So what did you do? You did a page at Metro, and then where'd you go from there?
I got hired at Metro on a show called PM Magazine.
Oh, yeah. Who were the hosts at the time?
So we had David Sisson and David and it'll come back to me.
Yeah?
Yeah. And that led to, we had different disc jockeys hosting PM Magazine all summer long.
Really?
Because Cynthia Tivers was my boss, and she had this idea that if you had different disc jockeys hosting, because David went back east, and Sandy Newton.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I used to
And
work with her an hour.
yeah, I love her.
Her dad.
She's a doll.
Her dad started all the Group W stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He was
She's
great.
talented.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
good. So David decided to go back and do religious broadcasting in Virginia.
Really?
And so Cynthia said, well, let's have a different disc jockey every week, and then we'll get the cross promotion. Great idea. So she had one of them she had on was Rick Dees, and I was told, I didn't have an FM radio in my car, but I was told Rick Dees is funny. I wanted to write comedy. So I wanted to study him, but he was on vacation the week before he did this. So I never really got a chance to hear him, but I just wrote scripts that were funny to the best of my ability. And he liked that, and he hired me to write the weekly Top 40 countdown.
Oh, my God.
And that led to me and some disc jockeys at Kiss FM forming a company called Premier Radio, which is now a division of iHeart.
Yeah.
So that was my trajectory.
Congratulations. That's way cool.
Yeah, I got launched.
You really did.
It was
and Dees is what, in Kentucky now on a ranch?
I guess.
what I heard.
1,000-acre ranch down there, and he grows hemp and cattle.
Does he really grow hemp?
He's a very entrepreneurial dude.
Yeah. But, he was responsible for the beginning of HGTV. Did you know
was
that?
he?
Yes, I did know that. I did know
He's
that.
a bright
But
bright guy.
she as a comedy person, you will appreciate what she did. She and her partners came up with this great idea, which was, why don't we have a comedy writing service for small and medium market DJs that can't afford their own writers?
Good idea.
And then once or twice a week, we'll fax some new jokes. And the next thing you know, they got 500 radio stations on their thing. And that's what blossomed the company.
Wow.
But what a great idea, right?
There was a kid used to do voices on D's who was my voice of 2XL, and I can't think of his name right now. But, there's a lot of...
James Taylor?
No.
James
Arnold Taylor.
James Arnold Taylor.
Really?
Yeah.
He's now a top voiceover guy.
It's amazing. All these young comics and voiceover guys would make a lot of money doing those
Right.
voices.
We used Jeff Altman and Ronnie Shell, which Rick had used.
Yep.
And we just syndicated them we'd write the scripts and the disc jockey would have their line. And then, Jeff, as Carl, the engineer, would have his line, or Ronnie Shell was the talent booking agent, Bernie Shelley, and his secretary, Seal. And Ronnie did both voices.
Wow.
And then the disc jockey got to interact. So it made the disc jockey the star of the bit rather than Casey Kasem, which replaces an air shift. Our philosophy was let's enhance an air shift.
Yeah.
So we started doing what we called the plane rap countdown, where they'd get to count down the top 40 records, and they'd say, hey, we talked to Huey Lewis. Press a button. Huey Lewis starts talking.
What a great idea for small and medium markets.
Because it makes you look like you're a big-time station.
Yeah.
Did you ever do stand-up with Ronnie Shell?
I will tell you this Ronnie Shell story.
I got one
Ronnie
too.
Shell's story is my favorite.
Yes. I was working for Ralph Edwards, mostly as a writer, Truth or Consequences, Crosswits. And Ronnie was getting ready to do a game show. I believe it was called Talk About. And Ronnie, with all due respect, very talented man, was not a particularly good game show host.
Okay.
And it was the day of, and they realized that Ronnie was not doing well.
Okay.
So Ralph Edwards, a man I grew up watching on This
He was
Is Your
such a
Life,
nice man.
the sweetest man in the history of the world, came to me and said, I need a favor. And I said, what's that? He said, I want to shoot a 30-minute pilot with you as the host, and I want Ronnie to sit down and watch you.
Oh.
So I did the show,
Okay.
and they had Ronnie make notes. And I went up to Mr. Edwards afterwards, and I said, with all due respect, Mr. Edwards, if I'm teaching the guy to be the host, why don't you just hire me? And he said, oh, I couldn't do that to Ronnie. I couldn't possibly do that. So Ronnie did it, and, the rest
Failed
is history,
miserably.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch Mike Binder's?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think of?
I love the nostalgic part of it, but I thought it was very dark.
The first two episodes were when you and I were there.
Yes.
When they got into the Joe Rogan stuff, they lost me.
Yeah, and I understood why they did that. It was cross-promotional opportunities. They used all the big guys. They could showcase Letterman and Leno, and Joe Rogan started appearing, and Whitney and all these
Letterman.
Yeah, the Letterman and all the current comics. I understood why Showtime probably insisted on that. But the whole comedy attitude, those people whose stand-up they focused on, it seemed so dark to me.
And it wasn't that way.
No, that's my whole point.
Exactly. We used to root when somebody got on the Tonight Show. We would all sit there and watch them and applaud them. And they made it seem like, well, you stole my joke, and why is he on there instead of me? And I don't remember that time.
I think that what they were trying to do was to. They were just trying to create controversy because it's promotional. But you're right. I remember watching so many guys do their first Tonight Show, like Louis Anderson. We were all gathered around the TV at the Improv. There was like 300 people in there watching Louis do his first Tonight Show. I remember when
Robin did his first.
No, they were very supportive of other comics, but just the material.
Yeah,
it wasn't as dark as it was portrayed there, and I felt I was a little melancholy about it at the end of the experience.
The thing that made me happy was, do you remember the doorman, Harris Pete?
Harris Pete.
And I said, if Harris Pete is not on this documentary, then
it's
no worth
wrong.
Watching.
Yeah,
and
Harris Pete,
sure enough, there
Harris
he was.
Pete was a big hockey fan.
Yes.
And his entire apartment was like a museum of hockey memorabilia, and he was the funniest guy ever.
And you know what he's doing now?
Oh, don't tell me.
No, Harris Pete is the happiest human I've ever met in my entire life. He gave up stand-up, although he works Vegas like 2 weeks a year. He lives in Montana, basically doing odd jobs and working as an umpire on minor league baseball games and anything to do with hockey. And I call him every now and then, and I've never met a man who's got such a lilt of joy in his voice.
And he represents a type of person that I've met in stand-up. There are people who are so infinitely funny.
Yes.
And funnier than 2/3 of the stand-ups making a living at it.
Yes.
But for some reason, I don't know if it's because they're comfortable being the doorman or they never walked up the 2 or 3 steps to the next level.
Yeah.
Harris was always in a conversation,
Funny
was
as
the
hell.
funniest guy in
my
the
God.
room. But he was the doorman at the Comedy Store for 30 years.
For years. I
Yeah.
mean, look, we can sit there and look at Argus Hamilton. The man never left. You know, there's stories like that you go, really? I mean, you know, but I talked to Binder about this once, and he said, I knew that the Comedy Store was a stepping stone. I didn't want to get stuck there.
No.
And he's gone on to do other things.
He's had a great career.
He's had a great career. But some people just
When
don't
I
know.
got there, Argus was going to take Johnny Carson's place.
Everybody thought that.
that was
because
the
he was
discussion.
the Mort Saul of our generation.
Yeah. Great topical joke
Oh,
writer.
yeah. But it was
self-destructive.
a different time. And, you know, keep in mind, when I used to stand in line on Monday nights, there were only 50 people. Now there's 550 people because everybody thinks they're funny, and most people aren't. Other than Sebastian Maniscalco, I can't think of many people who make me laugh right now.
No, that's a good point. Also, you were here for the era of I'm Dying Up Here and
Yeah.
probably read that book.
I knew him.
I loved that book.
Yes, I did
I
too.
thought the book was a really interesting little microcosm of stand-up and the strike and all that. But then the show that Jim Carrey produced
So dark.
was nothing like it. It was very dark.
It wasn't.
It's
true
hard to write a show about stand-ups.
Well, and a guy who ultimately killed himself by jumping off
Yeah,
a ceiling
yeah,
or a
yeah.
roof of a hotel next door. And the joke was he tried to dive into the ceiling where the room where the stage was, and he couldn't even do that right. Steve was a troubled boy and a sweet guy and actually funny, but that strike destroyed a lot of people. And to this day, there are comics who crossed the line and other comics who didn't. Who, if you
there's
mention
animosity, yes.
If you mention a name, my friend Ellis Levinson, who didn't cross the line,
I remember
and if you
Ellis.
mention certain comics who did, Ellis still gets the hair on the back of his neck to stand up. He gets angry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a really contentious time.
It was.
like politics now. I mean, the rumor that Ollie Joe Prater's the guy that lit the Improv on fire
Yes.
to make himself look good for Mitzi.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Well, and I know. Think about that whole thing.
I know.
It was an odd time, needless to say, and I had just become a regular when the strike happened. And so I got a phone call from Letterman saying, we're having a meeting. You need to come to my house and get together. Well, I said, what's it about? He said, we're thinking of striking. And I went, oh, Jesus. So I didn't show up. And about 2 days later, the phone rang, and it was Dave. And he said, you're either with us or against us.
Wow.
What are you doing? Well, Dave already had a career. Jay had a career. All those guys had a career. I didn't. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
But my choice was to strike.
Yeah.
And my fear was, is Mitzi going to retaliate? Will I ever? And remember, Shandling crossed the line, and he said, look, I don't care about this strike. I need to work, and went on, and it helped build his career.
Yeah.
Because while the rest of us were carrying signs that says "No money, no funny," he was up there getting experience.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how the fallout from that strike is still affecting us.
Absolutely.
It's
In many
just
ways.
informed so many people's view of themselves and the world.
We had Tom Dreesen on here, and it was great. He's written some great books about
Tom is amazing. I used to write
Yeah.
for Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But there are so many misconceptions about everybody's relationship in that strike.
I know.
I mean, I read the book and I kept asking Tom questions, and he goes, "No, that's not what happened." And I thought, "What? That was in the book."
Yeah.
What?
And Elaine said the same thing.
Yeah, Elaine Boozler
Yeah.
said the same thing. And she
Really?
was totally misrepresented in that book.
Interesting.
And that guy was a newspaper writer.
Yeah.
too, so I don't know.
You know how I became a regular at the Improv?
How?
No.
I could not get Bud to put me on ever. Okay, he just wouldn't put me on. So I'm watching the 11 o'clock news, see that there's a fire at the Improv. I get up the next morning at 7 o'clock and drive to the Improv, and there's Bud. He goes, "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, "Got to clean this place up." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you got to open again. Let's start cleaning up." Here's the thing I found fascinating. I was the only comic who showed up.
Wow.
Out of all the people who worked that club, I, who didn't work there.
Yeah.
So for the next 3 weeks, I worked with Bud and Dottie Archibald's husband,
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my.
and we cleaned that place up, and I became a regular, started emceeing on weekends, and his way of thanking me was, "I'm going to put you on now."
That's a really important story.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
I've
I mean,
never
I
heard
didn't care
that.
how he did it. I was going to become a regular. Now, the Improv was the hardest room to me in town.
Yeah. I never had a killer set in there the whole
Never.
10 years I worked there.
Where the Laugh Stop, you could always score.
Yeah.
And the Comedy Store was, 60-40.
Yeah.
I think I bombed every time I
I
was at the
think it
Improv.
was because it was a heavily weighted show business audience in there, and it was really a tough
A
call.
New York crowd, and it was like cavernous.
Yeah.
It was people they come there to schmooze.
Yeah. Nobody really
even when they go into the showroom, they're not really there.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. But, all that experience paid off because the more you got on stage, the more you got in front of a crowd, the more, even if it was for 6 or 8 people, you did it.
I learned a great lesson about that exact topic. They would do their open mics, the Improv, on Sunday nights, where Bruce Smirnoff would have this jar and everybody would write their name on there and they'd call the numbers out. And invariably, I'd get on at like 10 after 1 in the morning. But one night, Leno was getting ready to do a Tonight Show shot or something, and they let him go up. And the only people that were in the room were open micers. There were like 10 of us and no audience. And Leno went up there.
Did his act?
Did his act like it was the Roman Colosseum. And I learned, you know what? He has the amazing ability just to focus on the job at hand.
Yeah.
And our response wasn't even important to him. I think he just wanted to vocalize his jokes and practice the run. And I thought, wow, it's extreme discipline. But I learned
He's a pro.
Yeah.
Nobody works harder than Jay Leno.
Right.
It was interesting. I always found him funny as hell in a club. And if you'd get to the store early, this is 76, 4 years before you, out in front, it was always be Dave and Jay talking.
Yeah.
And Dave would always say, "Where'd you come up with that?" He used to think that Jay was the funniest guy in the world. And then when you realize what happened over the years between the Tonight Show and,
oh yeah,
all that
well, they
stuff.
were the closest friends. And that's really what called Jay to national attention was his interaction with Dave on Dave's show.
Yeah.
They
What's
were
your beef?
They were perfect together.
Yeah. No, it was an amazing time. So, everything changes. And I think the sense of comedy and the way you become successful today is different. You can become a YouTube star. You can do your own channel. And somehow that magically works with people. And there are some people, Jay says that all the people who are doing podcasts are jerking themselves off, which just makes me laugh. Because a lot of comics can't do anything else and they can't get on, so they became podcast guys.
That's why we have the desk.
Well, you know what? But here's the difference. You're broadcasters. And that term isn't used anymore.
No.
To me, Dave was the last real broadcaster on television. And to have that experience, I used to think Hugh Downs used to host the Today Show. And they'd walk down the hall and he would host Concentration.
Yeah.
And there was a period of time where, as a broadcaster, you were expected to be able to do news, sports, entertainment. But you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're put into a little box and you're only X or Y. You're not allowed to cross over. I was filling in once. Gary Collins was on vacation, and I was doing the hosting of the home show on ABC. And I had never really hosted a live network show, talk show. So the night before, they'd send over all the material and all the books, and I crammed everything into my head. And apparently, I didn't let the guests talk. I just was trying to show everybody how smart I was. And ABC, after the show, wanted to fire me and said, "This guy sucks. We're not allowing him to be on tomorrow." And Woody, much thankful, cleared a desk and said, "He's my guy. I'm sticking with him. Okay, get out of my office now." So Woody brings me in the office. He goes, "Look, Summers, they want you fired. Okay, you can't do tomorrow what you did today. If you do, I can't help you." So I went home, studied the material for Tuesday. We went live at 8:00 in the morning. I'm standing on stage with the IFB in my ear. And Denise Contis, who was the producer in the booth, said to me, "Marc, did you read all the material last night?" "Uh-huh." "Okay, now just go out there, forget everything you read, and just have a conversation."
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and that was the day I became a host.
Oh, wow.
Changed my
See,
life.
but the ability to learn rather than to just object, to what the opinion is. The first reflex is you're wrong. I'm doing this correctly. And then you have to take a breath and say, okay, what are they saying to me that I can learn from?
Dick Block, who's my mentor, still around 95 years old, said all TV shows are the same until the person says hello. If you like the way they say hello, you'll stick around, and if you don't, you won't. And that's Johnny Carson, okay? Think about all the people who've been successful. People love Johnny, okay?
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned that. I had this discussion with somebody like 3 days ago. For a period of time, they don't do it all the time, but they play the old Carsons on Sirius XM radio.
I listen.
And then you realize the power and the talent of Carson.
Oh, yeah.
When you hear his voice and how he inflects, and he's so comfortable in his own skin on camera, or on audio. But I thought, wow, there he is right there. He
was the best.
It was soothing, and it's the same thing that you and Letterman brought to the game. It's that Midwestern sensibility.
Dick Cavett.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Have you ever had Bruce Smirnoff on this show?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you must.
Yeah.
This man has the greatest stories. You must bring him on and have him tell you the story where Johnny Carson got drunk and Bruce had to drive him home.
Oh, yeah. It's in his one-man
it's
show.
in his one-man show. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Oh, my
It's
God.
so good.
But Bruce has more stories than Carter's have liver pills. I mean, I got to tell you.
Just from working at the Improv, right? That's what stuff that happened by accident.
By accident. And he's in Florida now doing the condos and
No,
stuff
I
like
know.
that.
He's great.
He is.
When I was trying to expand my stand-up business, somebody recommended that I do an audition for Bruce because he books the condos.
Yes.
And I had a particular one-person show that was about being old, and everybody thought this would play well in the condos in Florida. So I called him up and I sent him a tape. And I knew Bruce from when he was running the open mics at the Improv. And he said, I just can't do it to you. I said, what? He said, you're just not ethnic enough.
That's hysterical.
He said, people down here, and he was being honest, and I'm so glad he did. He said, this is probably 85 to 90% of the people you're going to play to down here are transplanted New York people. Yeah. They love snarky, a little, maybe a Yiddish joke at the end of the thing. And it's the cadence of the Jewish New Yorker. And I was insulted for like 30 seconds. And then I talked to other comedians who have worked down there and said, no, he did you a giant favor because when you die down there, it's an indescribable death. So he saved me from myself. Then.
Yeah,
but he's had a great career booking acts.
He has. He's the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And has had more stories. I mean, he's got the funniest stories. And I knew him for years. We used to stand in line Monday nights together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was Bruce Smirnoff, me, and a guy by the name of Alan Prophet. Do you remember Alan Prophet?
Yes.
Alan's real name was Alan Shabowski. And I said, where'd you come up with Prophet? He said, well, there was Alan King. And I thought, well, King, I'll be Prophet. You know? Hysterical.
We got to talk about your book because you did a lot of people a lot of good service by writing this book. It's called Everything in Its Place, My Trials and Triumphs with Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. First of all, what are the symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder?
Well, they vary from person to person. And by the way, the rule book changes on a regular basis. Mine was neatness and orderliness. So we had fringes on a rug, and I would have to straighten the fringes every day. Otherwise, I'd feel, you have intrusive thoughts. Mm-hmm. If I don't do this, something bad will happen to me or my wife or my kids. Right. And so it drives you. This is something that's passed down in families. My mother had it. My father had it. Both their parents had it. And so I was doing a live talk show, Biggers and Summers, on Lifetime. And we had Dr. Eric Hollander on as a guest. And I had done the research the night before. And I thought, oh, my God, this is what I have. I didn't know that it had a name. I just was sort of keeping this inside, thinking I was crazy. And so I have to make a decision. Do I go on TV the next day and lie and pretend I don't have this, or do I come out and expose myself, which I did. And the next thing I know, the phone's ringing, the Today Show and Oprah and People Magazine want to have this conversation about the guy who used to host the messiest show on TV had obsessive compulsive disorder. And so it blew up, and I was on Oprah, and I was on the Today Show and on People Magazine and all this stuff. And so I was approached to write a book. And out of all the things I've done in my life, it's probably the most important because people come up to me and say, I didn't know what I had until I saw you on these shows or until I read your book. And because of you, my life is better and it changed everything. And you go, I've been on Oprah, I've been on Howard Stern, I've done the Tonight Show. Yeah, it's all irrelevant. The fact that I helped change this person's life meant more to me. And it still happens. And so how do you get out of the habitual things? Is it is it behavioral stuff? Is it medication? Well, it's about serotonin not getting from point A to point B.
Oh, okay.
So I think the first thing you have to do, I've never done drugs and I don't drink much, but if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, and I've known many, sadly, in the entertainment industry, until you're ready to get better, you're not going to. And I've done interventions with plenty of people to try and save them. And some of them jump on board the wagon about, I don't want to live this life anymore. And others choose not to. And so I had just been fed up. I couldn't do it anymore. I was a nervous wreck. And so Dr. Hollander became my doctor. At the time, put me on medication and would go to sessions like you go to a psychiatrist. And then I went and did behavior therapy, which is basically retraining your brain to not want to do these things. Dateline caught wind of this thing, and they basically followed me for a year. And if you watch the first episode, and it's online, my house, I lived up in Calabasas at the time, was a showplace, but I didn't want anybody in it. I didn't want anybody to sit on the couch. I didn't want anybody to sit on a chair. I didn't want my kids to have friends over. I just wanted it to be perfect all the time. And so they followed me through the transition. And my graduation was for me to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and leave my house and not come back until they called me. And when I did, I walked in and they had turned my living room into a TV studio. And initially my knees buckled because I thought, oh my God, I'll never be able to get this place back to the way it was, which was perfect. But you know what? All the training that I had and the medication and the behavior therapy got me through. And so I never say that I'm 100% cured. I don't think you ever are. I always say I'm 82% cured. And there's a bit of it that still hangs out there. And depending on how stressed I get, it pops back in.
Sure, it's a manageable condition. It's not
well,
something...
I have the tools now to know that.
Do you and Howie Mandel do support groups?
I talked to Howie the other day. I did an intervention on Howie years ago, and Howie said to me, there's nothing wrong with me. Everybody else has the problem.
Yeah. And just like I think you've done the same thing with your book and everything, Howie made it okay to talk about that topic.
Yeah.
He was the first major star that ever discussed and revealed having had that.
He got a pass. I wasn't able to work for about a year and a half after I came out with it. Somehow Howie got away with it.
Because you went first.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
So you revealed your condition before he did?
I did.
Wow, I wasn't.
Yeah. You ran interference. Listen,
did.
and then it becomes a thing. Whether you're Caitlyn Jenner, it's like, oh yeah, you're transitioning.
Yeah.
That first person has to run interference, but Chaz Bono did that for her. So. But I wanted to just say that I think we all have inklings of this. I think this is what superstition is about. I think this is what certain religious rituals are about. I think this is what it's about when kids are doing step on a crack, break your mother's back.
Absolutely.
We all have an inkling towards these types of, I have to touch this or wear this, or, if you go over to watch a game at your friend's house and the first time you appear, the team loses, you're disinvited. So like you have the power to determine which team is. So we all have to, I think, work on this.
And Howie works on a regular basis. During this COVID thing, I've been going a little wacky myself. And I called Howie the other day to commiserate about, what are you doing right now? Are you seeing anybody? Are you on any medication? Because we talk the same language. By the way, the nicest human being in the history of the world. Howie Mandel is the sweetest boy ever. He really is.
That's awesome.
Great. Worked his way into several areas of success.
Think
Very
about
much
him.
like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great producer. Yeah. He has a company that edits America's Got Talent. He's an empire. He really is.
Yeah.
So great career. It's fun to see these guys grow. And the fun part for me now is after I had the old OCD thing, and then I was in a car accident and broke every bone in my face.
Whoa.
And I thought to myself, well, how many more chances am I going to get? And I always wanted to perform on Broadway. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And so I met a guy who was a Broadway producer and called him up and I said, look, I know I'm not going to get an opportunity on Broadway, but what can I do to start doing theater? And he said, I just bought a place in Long Beach Island, New Jersey. I don't know what shows we're doing this year, but let me find out and I'll call you back. So he called me a couple weeks later and said, we're doing Grease. Do you want to play Vince Fontaine?
Cool.
And I said, do I have to audition? He said, no, part's yours if you want it. So I did Grease for 3 weeks up in Long Beach Island, and I met all these kids, literally kids, who had grown up watching it.
Oh, yeah.
So they were more excited about me being there when I was a nervous wreck, wondering, can I even still do this? Okay. And so 3 of them, one is a guy by the name of Drew Gasparini. He was on stage with me. And he was a beautiful composer. He's worked his ass off, and he is now writing the music for Karate Kid, which is premiering on Broadway in a year.
Wow.
Okay? So there's story number one. He introduced me. Oh, by the way, we had this lovely young boy who was in Greece with us, who we all used to stay backstage and watch rehearse because we thought this kid is going to explode. His name is Anthony Ramos, who is now the star of In the Heights.
So good.
And the best kid ever. He's 28, and he's kicking ass and
He's
taking
so
names.
good.
And I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Alex Brightman, who I had lunch with yesterday. He's in town doing a pilot. But Alex Brightman, besides starring as Beetlejuice on Broadway and having the lead in School of Rock, is a brilliant writer. And he wrote me a one-man show called Everything in Its Place, The Life and Slimes of Marc Summers.
Oh, wow.
Which we did at a place called Bloomington Playwrights in Bloomington, Indiana. We did it at the Adirondack Theater Festival. And believe it or not, next June, we're bringing it back. I'm going to be doing it up in Pennsylvania. And the goal is to take it off Broadway. And that's what we're shooting for now.
That's
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, your career story and your life story is so interesting. You battled cancer.
Yeah.
If you don't mind just telling us what that was like. And
had stomach pains one night, didn't feel good. Went to the doctor. They did all sorts of tests, and they weren't sure. They said, you have some sort of blockage. We're not sure what it is, but we're going to have to operate. So they operated. I woke up. I'm a stand-up comic. I was trying to be fun and funny, so I was sort of groggy and a little bit of pain, and the doctor was hovering over me. I said, hey, doc, how am I doing? Do I have, like, cancer or something? And he goes, as a matter of fact, you do. You need to see an oncologist right away.
Oh, my God.
They had taken 17 and a half inches of my small intestine out,
Whoa.
and they didn't know what kind of cancer I had. And so it took them a month to get me properly diagnosed, and I have something called CLL, chronic lymphatic leukemia. And so I was on chemo the first time for 2 years. It worked for about 8. Then I had chemo a second time. Then they tried chemo a year later. A third time didn't work. And so I'm now on these pills called Bruvitin. They only cost $148,000 a year. And
why do they do that?
Yeah, why do they do that? Tell me about it. And so I'm for the rest of my life on Bruvitin.
Yeah.
The CLL is
Well, you're in remission now, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're in remission
I'm
now.
in remission currently. These pills have kept me. In fact, I just did my 6-month checkup last week, and knock on something. It's all good.
Man.
And so initially, I was depressed for a year. I couldn't sort of move on, and finally was able to pull me up out of that situation and put it on stage and talk about it. And that was the best therapy I could have. Yeah,
it will benefit people to hear you tell the story, and it's an additional challenge for you having the OCD, and cancer is the ultimate lack of control over your life. So you had to deal with it emotionally as well.
Absolutely. And you first play the why me game, and I'm in the oncologist's office the first day with my head down, thinking, what the hell's going on here? And this guy comes up to me, takes his hat and starts hitting me. He goes, Summers, what are you doing? And I didn't even look up. And he goes, wake up, look at me. And I looked up. Remember Fred Travellina?
Yeah.
I saw his wife 2 weeks ago. She came to my show in Simi Valley, Lois, the nicest lady on the
Nicest woman
planet.
ever.
Yeah.
And Fred was going through a horrible bit of cancer when we were going to the same oncologist. And he unfortunately died. They misdiagnosed. They gave him the wrong medication. They gave him doses, as Lois had told me. I think he was only supposed to get 3, and they gave him 5 or 6, which basically killed him.
Oh, my God.
And I was talking to Lois a lot after the whole situation. I've talked to her in years. But once again, a lovely lady. And Fred, I did the warm-ups on a show called Anything for Money that Fred was the host of. And we got to know each other real well. And he used to do these great voices on my back where we used to have answering machines.
Yeah.
I used to do, Michael Caine and Jackie Mason and all these fantastic, and a lovely man who passed away way too soon.
Yeah. He was like one of the big guys that Merv Griffin gets.
Yes.
He did a million Griffins.
And the horn, by the way. He used to play the horn all the time.
She's a sweetheart. She's
How's she
very
doing?
supportive. She's doing beautifully. She does. She's the executive director of an organization called Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters.
She is?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And it's old people and their parents. And she organizes these lunches, but all the old game show hosts, Wink Martindale, Peter Marshall, all these guys are members of this organization.
Oh, nice.
And when they do a lunch, it's like being in a museum of broadcasting.
Oh, my God.
And she happens to be the executive director.
Is that the lunch that I came to where they were honoring you and I came with Cipriano?
Yes.
Yeah. It's really fun. We sat next to what was Tom Kennedy.
Oh,
Tom Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it was like a history lesson.
Somebody did a documentary on me, and I invited Peter Marshall to come, and he couldn't make it. So I invited him to my house, and he came up, and he was drinking some water, and Pete's 94 years old,
Sure.
okay? And he started to choke on his water, and he said, "This may be it." And I said, "No, Pete, you can't do that in my house."
Not in his house.
He's
a neat freak.
Talk about this guy's got more stories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. He came to the house, and we went to dinner, and for 3 hours, said things and told me stories that would make your head explode.
Whoa.
Because he knew
everything.
Yeah. All those guys.
See the
know
Rose
one
Marie
another.
documentary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Peter is great, and I understand he's doing better. He had COVID and was in pretty bad shape.
Oh, he got COVID?
I didn't know that.
No.
Bad. But he's doing better now, and he's the best guy ever. The best.
We'll have to have
What a
him on.
long career.
Yeah, and Wink. I mean, think about Wink.
Yeah.
He moved to Palm Springs.
Oh, he did.
He won't come back for meetings. He needed somewhere where those obscene colored jackets that he wears were less offensive.
He's the only guy who made Doc Severinsen look normal, you know?
Really? Still, white shoes and like a plaid jacket.
Oh, my God.
40 years too late.
And the color of his hair is like the color of Trump's face, It's pretty bizarre.
But those big pipes, those big broadcaster pipes. I
Yeah.
remember listening to him on KMPC when I first moved out.
Oh, yeah.
Those were voices.
Oh, my God, he had this great voice. Seacrest says that to me all the time. He goes, Summers, forget the laryngitis right now. He goes, when guys get to your age, they start to sound like old and creaky. He said, you sound exactly the same as when I was a kid, I said, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
Got a young voice.
Yeah. Been lucky for that.
Well, I just want to thank you so much.
This has been so much fun.
It's just been a blast.
Thank
I'm going to
you so
read the
much.
closing credits. You can close your eyes for a moment. We would love for you
Rest.
to join us online on Instagram and Twitter, where we are at MediaPathPod, and on Facebook, where we are MediaPath Podcast. You can find full episodes with all kinds of bonus visual content on our YouTube channel, MediaPath Podcast. We would love to know what you've been enjoying. You can contact us at our social media or email us at MediaPathPodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our wonderful guest, Marc Summers. Our team includes Dina Friedman, Francesco Damanda, John Maddox, Sharon Bellio, Bill Filipiak, Thomas Hubble, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I am Louise Planker here with Fritz Coleman, and we will see you along the media path.
Can I make my noise with my cup one more time?
Yeah, do that. Go ahead and do that. Where can we find you online, Marc Summers?
It's at The Real Marc Summers on, all those lovely social media things.
Yeah, The Real Marc Summers on Twitter. And Fritz has more to tell you.
All right, if you enjoyed this episode of Media Path, and how could you not, it would help us to be more discoverable by potential new listeners if you would leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're new here and this is your first time with us, please check out our back catalog. You may find all kinds of binge-worthy material. We've had Diane Warren and Bill Mooney and the Cowsills and Henry Winkler and Keith Morrison. Lots of great people. Gary Puckett. We had Bill Medley last week.
Oh,
He
my
was
God.
unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
I'm
He
so in
was
love with him.
Really, really wonderful. And thank you for spending an hour with us. And we would be overjoyed if you took a moment to share your thoughts with us or recommend us to a friend. Be safe.
That was great,
How was
Marc.
Gary Puckett?
He was cool.